I've had several people send me comments or questions. Just curious how all this came to be, how I ended up here in the Ozarks, and why I decided to build this house by myself and all that. So I thought I would just kind of take this time. Bad weather day, can't work outside really, so I just thought I'd take this time to explain how I got here, how it all got started. I started coming to Arkansas in, I guess it was around 1999 or 2000. I was working in a machine shop, been there for many years, worked as a tool and die maker and a designer doing prototype work and machining. And we worked a lot of hours, and I just needed a break. I was looking for a place to go, and my boss, the man I worked for, he traveled a lot, and he suggested coming to Arkansas. There's a lot of stuff to see, it's pretty up here in the Ozarks, so I decided to come take a visit. I had an uncle that lived up here. We were big buddies when I was growing up. He was my hot rod hero, I guess. He always had hot rods and racing and that kind of thing. So I contacted him while I was up here, came over and visited him. within I guess a month of going back home after my first trip up here, I bought my first property. I owned it for about a year and found another one that I liked, and ended up selling the first one and buying the second one. The second one was a lot more land. It had a runway on it. Being a pilot, that was real attractive to me because I have a place to store an airplane, and I could land and fly back and forth. Coming from Texas, it was a pretty good trip up here. It was about 6 or 7 hours each way. So it's, I was just thinking ahead, I guess. So I kept it for several years, worked on the property a lot, and I don't know, 3-4 years into it, the house we'd spent all the time and money on, and my uncle worked on it a lot too while I was gone. Someone robbed the house. They cleaned it out and took everything, and then what they didn't steal, they vandalized. So no one there to watch it. I just decided to sell the whole place. And I still came up here and visited. I was here a lot. I probably came up here 8 or 10 times a year. On weekends, visiting my uncle, having fun, hanging out, riding ATVs or whatever, and just, I don't know, just getting to know the Ozarks a little bit. In about 2013, I bought this place here. 60 acres. It was, this area that I'm at right now was like the community dump ground. Everybody brought was a big ditch out here that someone had dug with a track hoe. They threw all their trash in it. When it would get full, they would burn it and, just keep on going. All their scrap iron and old junk, and this place was covered. You couldn't even hardly ride around on an ATV out here. It was overgrown. It was a mess. So I spent the next year to a year and a half coming up here on my days off and just cleaning it up. We burnt everything out of the ditch. I guess it took me about 3 months to get all that burned, and what wouldn't burn we had to drag out, and then hauled it off, and spent the rest of the time hauling off all the scrap iron. I gave everything away that anybody wanted, and the rest we just loaded up on the trailers and hauled it off and got it cleaned up. Had a lot of dozer work done up here, and then I had the ditch covered up. I knew that I wanted to build either a log home or a barn style home. I just wasn't interested in a brick house or just your typical house. It was I don't know, it wasn't really a big decision, but it was a hard decision. I didn't know which way I wanted to go. I knew this would be a lot more labor intensive and slower going, especially with my work schedule. I've worked on 2 other log homes before this. This is the only one that I've ever done completely on my own. It's a lot of work. Would I do it again? I don't know. I think I would. If I had to do it again, I'd do it smaller for sure. This is kind of This is overkill, but you know, it's what I wanted at the time. In 2015, I started doing the foundation work on this house. I would come up here on my days off. At this now, you know, here we are in 2015. I've been working for a large oil field company. It's a drilling exploration company, and I travel a lot, but you get a lot of days off. So I worked in a maintenance department as a field tech. In 2015, I started the foundation work here on this house. You know, we already had a lot of this cleared off, everything was cleaned up, and I started building concrete forms and trying to dig the holes to set these pier forms. This ground is all rock up here. You go down 6 or 7 inches and you're going to hit a rock the size of a basketball. So after spending about 2 weeks digging for the first 3 pier forms, I bought a backhoe. I had to have it. I tried to rent a backhoe, just it wasn't going to happen up here. The oil field had gobbled them all up, and the only thing you could buy was a new one. I didn't want a new one, so I found a used one. Still wasn't cheap, but it made the job a lot easier. I started setting the pier forms, and then I ran into trouble getting a concrete truck up here. I couldn't find anybody reliable. They say, well, they would show up to pour the concrete. They wouldn't show up, and I'd only had 6 days to come up here, do some work, pour concrete, do everything I had to do, and be back in Texas and ready to go back to work. And then it was a few weeks where I could get back. Sometimes you get back up here and it rains for 4 or 5 days, so you don't get anything done for months at a time. So I ordered a high strength concrete mix in the bags, and I started pouring these pier forms with bags of cement. I would have to mix up almost 40 bags per pier form. They're pretty heavy. Most of what you see is underground, so it's not going to go anywhere. It's got a heavy footprint, but it was a lot of work, and that slowed me down. In the winter of 2015, I had all the logs cut. The logs for every log on this house came off this property. It's the other mountain on the other side over there is where they all came from. I didn't have a way to get them over here. So I had a local logging company come in, and they cut them all down and moved them over here for me. And we stacked them up, set them out here on some sacrificial logs, and let them sit for a few months, and then started peeling. You know, peel them, treat them, rolling them over to keep them straight, and you know, go through the whole process of getting the logs ready to build a house. I finished up the foundation work in May of 2016. I finished all the foundation work in the summer of 2016, and then in May of 2017, I set the first log. It's like I said, I was working by myself, so it just takes a while. You know, there's a lot that goes into it. So it took 2 years from the time I started doing concrete work till setting the first log. And after that, it's just, you just stack them and pin them, work your way around the house, and just go up and up. It took almost a year for me to stack all the logs. You know, you come up here, you get a couple logs stacked every day. You only have a few days here, and then it's back to Texas and go back to work. Sometimes you come up here and you start getting ready to stack logs, and it rains for 3 or 4 days at a time, and it knocks out a whole month. So it was just slow going, tedious work, but you stay on it. In late July of 2018, we started with all the roof work. You have to set your ridge pole support logs and your ridge pole and get all that up there. Once you get that up and get everything bolted in place and anchored, everything's pinned, then you can get ready to start setting your rafters. I came up here, you know, I had 5 days to work on it. My uncle, the one I had moved up here or came up here to see in the beginning, lived right down the road from here. And he would come down and help me and hang out. He's older, so he couldn't do a whole lot, but he would help when he could, or he would drive equipment, or whatever he needed to do if I needed a hand. So when we got ready to set the ridge pole support logs and the ridge pole, he came down and drove the forklift so he could raise me up and I could pin everything up in the air. I left out of here on Monday, go back home, get ready to go to work on Tuesday, and I got a phone call Friday morning that my uncle had passed away in his sleep. He was a diabetic, wasn't in very good health, didn't take care of himself like he should, and it just caught up with him. So the rest of 2018, it was a tough rest of the year. I left my job in the oil field in October, late October 2018, which is right at a year ago, and decided to move up here full time. I had had the RV here for 5 or 6 years. That's what I stayed in when I came to work on the place. And I just decided to jump ship, come do it. Life was passing me by. I didn't want to spend 10 more years working on this house and getting everything going. So it was time for a change. I don't know if he hadn't passed away like he did, if I would have ever just walked away from the job. Something would have had to happen. So it was, I don't know, it was the push that I needed to just get away, back up, slow down. I've always been the kind of person to work 12, 14 hours a day and just go all the time. And it helps to have a nice bank account, but if you never get to enjoy it, what's the point? What I'm doing right now has always been my main goal, to get here and do this and start this farm and just reset, slow down and enjoy life a little bit. My dad retired early. I don't know, it was my plan. I just wasn't following through with it. So here I am. It's 2019. I've gotten a lot done here in this last year. I got the barn built. The people that follow my channel, you guys have seen what all I've done in the last year. I actually started this YouTube channel, but it's come a long way. It still has a long ways to go. Winter time is setting in. I still haven't decided if I'm going to take that job in North Dakota for the winter, but here we are. More decisions to make, I guess. The house has come a long way in the last 4 or 5 months. This was just an open structure, no roof or anything, and now I'm ready to start building this porch and cutting out for doors and windows and getting the interior going. So that's where I came from. That's how it all started. That's kind of where it's headed. I'm not sure where it's going to be next year, but I'm going to keep going at it. I've got a few animals here now, something to keep me busy, something to keep me company when no one's around, because there's no one around up here for the most part. I've had several people ask me what size, how big is this house? What size is it? Heated and cooled. This section of the house right here is approximately 3,400 square feet. From the floor to the ceiling in the living room to the ridgepole, which is vaulted ceiling, is 27 feet. Yes, it will have a stone fireplace. The fireplace is 11 feet wide, 27 feet tall, and 3 feet deep. This section of the house is 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath. The house was originally designed to be built in stages. This is the first stage. Get this part done, get in it. I can live in it while I build the rest. Not sure if I'm going to build the rest at this point. Honestly, I'm tired of working on it. The whole house as designed is 7,200 square feet, heated and cooled. I just don't need that much house. I thought I did, but I just don't think I even want it now. So I guess that's it in a nutshell. That's where I came from. That's how I got here, and this is where I'm at. If you guys have any questions or anything else you'd like to know, just leave them in the comments down below. I try to get back and answer as many comments as I can. Sometimes I get a little busy and I get way behind, but I at least try to acknowledge everyone that leaves a comment, good or bad, doesn't matter. But I do try to answer most questions. So anything else you'd like to know, be sure and put it on there.